This is gonna be just a dumb, silly video, but I couldn't find anyone posting about this, at least what I thought. It's a review on anime, completely pointless, but I just watched Steins Gate, 'cause I've COVID. One sitting, very good use of a day, but, I mean, I have COVID, what am I gonna do today? Um, was everyone talks about how it's, like, a really clever, brilliant show, but it's actually really, really dumb. It's fun. It's good-ish. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it, but it's really dumb. Like, none of the characters have any deductive skills, deductive reasoning skills, at all, at any point. It's insane. It gets, like, compared to, like, Death Note or something like that, where, like, the whole time, the characters in that show are having all these like, they're making these logical leaps where you're like, "Holy cow, how did you think of that?" I mean, maybe you could have thought someone could think of it if they were, like, spending time, but in, like, Steins Gate, they're constantly just totally oblivious, and it's obnoxious in a lot of circumstances. Spoilers, obviously. To give some examples, the only time that anyone ever actually does anything smart in the entire show is and I can't remember any of their names, I'm terrible at Japanese names. Uh, the little girl, who likes cosplay, she figures out, like, who's someone's dad is. And even that is something that was, like, really obvious, where it's like this girl comes back in time knowing her dad's there, working on time travel, and it's like, there's 2 guys working on time travel at that moment who are known to be part of this huge history thing, like, it's not confusing and she knows that the guy is friends with the protagonist, and it's like, there's literally 2 guys here working on it, and you know which one it isn't, like, it's not that fucking hard of a leap, but at least for the character who does figure it out, for her, it would be a leap. For her, it was actually smart. Everything else, though, it's like there's the character from the future who's like, "We've met before, but not in the past," and no one figures it out. He'll constantly, like, go back in time, be like, "Huh, what happened?" And it's like, you literally just sent yourself back in time. How don't you know what you just did? And then, like, he'll follow it up by being, like, weird around everyone, like, "Oh, what just happened?" And he's like, "Oh, nothing." And no one's ever like, "Is this time travel thing working that we're doing that we know works?" Like, we already know it works, and we already know like, at no point does anyone figure it the fuck out. They never look at the time machine, right? Like, I knew that was a time machine from the moment the building shook in the first episode. I was like, "Oh, that was probably a time machine landing on the roof." Of course, I know the plot, or I knew that the show was about time travel to some degree. That's about all I knew. So, I mean, yeah, I had that, but it's like, at no point did they ever think to go look at that thing, or did anyone in that world seem to care to look at it, right? It's like future technology, time traveling future technology lodged inside of a building, just sitting there. Everyone's like, "Oh, just don't check it out or anything." There's no like, CERN isn't, like, on it. Oh my god, they never at any point decide to look into the database that they have access to, like, try and figure things out. Never do that. They never like, they're just not smart. I'm just gonna kinda go on about how not smart they are. Uh, when they're trying to figure out this whole time travel thing, they have there's this person online, who ends up being one of the characters, and they're, like, texting about how time travel works, and they just like, they ask him a couple questions, and they're like, "Alright, cool, that's enough for the plot to have developed far enough. We're just not gonna talk to this person anymore at all," even though they're, like, literally, like, this expert that we have access to, as well as this big database. There's the whole thing with, like, starting the Large Hadron Collider, and it's like, what, you just turn that on remotely, and it, like, powers up in the time it takes to send a text or something? Like, what do they think the knowledge of their viewers is about these machines? Like, are we not supposed to know anything about how any of that exists and how it takes power and time and stuff? Like, I don't know. So it's not like a bad show, it's just really dumb, and it pretends to be smart. I would say if anything, the smartest part of the show is the, vernacular, the vocabulary. It's there's a lot of really great $5 words thrown in there. Um, there's also just a lot of issues with the characters kinda losing track of whether or not they're supposed to be funny and, like, douchey or, like, very serious about a thing. There's a really, really annoying stint from, like, episodes, like, 12 to 15 where the protagonist just refuses to talk to the woman in this anime that, like, is a complete professional on time travel, like, wrote the freaking thesis or whatever. Like, he just doesn't talk to her, and he keeps, like, trying to, like, save that one character's life and, like, failing over and over again, and it resolves when he finally talks to her, and it's obvious that that's how it's gonna resolve, is that he's just gonna keep messing up until he asks for help, and she dies as a result, like, in the timeline, like, the it's just insane, like, it's just, like, an hour of him, like, just not saying anything and things going wrong, and then the moment he finally says something, which there was never a reason not to say anything, I mean, she should know about how this is all going because she's the person designing the machine. The moment he says something, she's like, "Oh, well, let's solve the problem," and actually, like, does something smart, and it's just, like, it's the most grating 3 episodes of a show I've ever seen in my life. Because the whole time I'm like, "They can't just keep dragging this on, like, surely, I know at some point he has to tell her, the plot cannot progress without them all coming back together to talk," and they just spend episodes of him being an idiot and killing like, creating more and more timelines where people die, where it's also like, what the hell happens to these timelines when he leaves them? They never really talk about that, but it seems like there's just a whole bunch of timelines where everything fucking sucks, and he just kinda, like, bounces out, like, I don't know, maybe they stop then. It wasn't particularly clear about that. Um, I don't wanna say it's a bad show, it's just it's not a good show. It's like a 7 out of 10 maybe, like, if this is it's just it doesn't in the very least, it doesn't deserve to be compared to, Death Note is really where it comes down to, like, it's considered like a psychological thriller or like a mystery or something, but no one in the show has any deductive reasoning skills, and nothing in it is very logical, and that would be fine if the characters didn't posit themselves as scientists and, like, geniuses, but the fact that they pretend to know what they're doing and then just never, ever, ever do anything smart, it's lame. It's a show for people who frankly didn't take the time like, I couldn't help but outsmart these people while sitting there mindlessly in a haze of COVID. How people can look at a show like this and be like, "Yeah, that's a smart show." Like, I don't know. I just wanted that opinion to be out there in the world somewhere because I can't seem to find anyone else saying it, and it seems like everyone's like, "Oh, the first few episodes are boring." Sure, they're boring. Whatever. A show can have build up, that's fine. That's not the problem. In fact, I was fine with them. It wasn't until things got serious that it was like, "Oh my god, now it's time to start acting smart." I don't care if something's slow. And, there's, the other thing, I guess, what is it? The animation style's kinda lame. A lot of whitewash. Like, once you start to be like, "Oh, look, they layered a white glow over everything on this scene too," it's like, it's not great. It's not terrible, and that's not what I don't think the show should be judged on. Um There was one other thought I had for a second there, but whatever. It's not like this is important. Just wanted the opinion to exist somewhere out the world. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's that, it seems like a lot of people who don't like the show don't like it for dumb reasons, like being like, "Ah, it was too slow," or like, "Ah, he has a harem." It's like, yeah, I mean, that stuff's kind of lame. The protagonist is, kind of obnoxious at times, stuff like that, but, like, those are all things that, like, I don't know, I can accept that people don't have to be the way I want them to be. I think that this show is good for people that are, like, smarter than the dumb people who need to see an explosion every 5 minutes, but they still have to be dumber than someone who would think, like, "Why? This is not what an intelligent scientist would do. These people are not being smart." Like, they have like, it's I feel like if you're particularly smart or particularly dumb, you're gonna look at the show and be like, "This is a really shit show." But if you're somewhere in the middle, it's probably gonna be great because it's gonna seem kind of smart relatively, I guess. Watch Death Note. Watch Death Note instead. Don't ever watch this, and just, I don't know, watch some good science YouTube in place of it. There's plenty of good science YouTube. There's so many intelligent things out there to watch, and Steins Gate is not one of them. Um, so that's my stupid review on anime that doesn't matter, but I just needed it to exist because no one seems to be saying it when I look on the internet to see if my opinion is, I don't know, echoed anywhere. Cheers.